Hi, I'm Nini, and welcome to Creative Angles, the podcast for creatives by creatives. Join us as we talk to people active in the ever-expanding world of the arts in an effort to both inform and inspire. And we're rolling! Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Creative Angles. I'm your host, Nini, and today we are here with InsertDisc5, also known as Adrienne. Adrienne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. How long have you been creating for? Very big question.
A while. It kind of depends, because there's like the usual answer, which is I've always been creating.
From the moment I can remember.
For as long as I can remember, I have been creating. I feel like art in general kind of started to be a realization that it was a path that I could actually pursue. Was when I entered high school, because I entered an art school that was specifically for the arts, and even more specifically for product design. And let me tell you, don't like it. Not
very
for
corporate.
Me.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it was corporate, but it was more like that it was a lot of analysis about. Listen, I very clearly remember that we spent probably like 2 or 3 months, so at least it felt that way, analyzing what school chairs were like, and what was the decision behind school chairs, and why were they at this specific height, and why were they curved, and why were they those specific colors. And it's like, cool. Like, I think it is incredibly useful as an artist to know those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it. Not me. Not for me. Not for me. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my life. I could analyze products forever. I'm like, cool.
To each their own. Definitely. If you
let me get out of here.
Yeah, no, fair. If you had to give yourself like a title for your full scale of creative endeavors, what would you call yourself?
For a very long time, I defined myself as a cartoonist, but now I'm a game developer.
Right. the whole art bit. Yeah, the art bit took a bit to the background, essentially.
Yeah, well, it's more like that I kind of used cartoonist as a catch-all for like, I'm doing animation, I'm doing illustration, I'm doing comics. And right now I'm mostly doing game development. And so and it does also encompass like, I do the art, I do the writing, I do the programming, I do all of those things, but we have an actual word for it. That's not me looking for a word somewhere.
No, that makes sense. How long have you been making like comics for? Because I know you did a few.
Undertale, and even farther. I would say Undertale was like almost 10 years ago. Like, yeah, it's 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I would say 13 years.
Oh, wow.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. I like comics and manga a lot.
Hell yeah. Was there any like comic or manga or whatever that like really inspired you in your own creative journey?
Not a specific one. Like, I could go all day like listing some stuff that inspired me, but there wasn't one in particular that made me go, oh my god, I could do this.
Right. So, of course, you made In Stars in Time eventually, right? Like, Start Again originally. Did you always plan for that to be a game when you came up with the story initially?
Not at all. Like, that was mostly that I wanted to tell that kind of story, but I felt like, at the time, I felt like that if I was telling a story about a character being stuck in that kind of video game, new game plus game over time loop, I felt like that it worked actually better in comic form, because there was this kind of distance between the video game medium, because it was made in a comic form, and I really enjoyed having that kind of distance in a way that kind of allowed it to show more clearly the medium of video games. That was kind of how I was thinking about it at the time. And I remember when I was in the pre-production of making it into a video game, that was one of my worries where I was like, is that actually going to work as a video game?
Hmm.
Since I felt like the strength of it as a comic is because it wasn't a video game, and I felt like a little bit putting it as a video game would make it more normal, a little like expected a
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah.
bit. But that turned out pretty good, so it's fine.
Hell yeah. Was it like, did you do any gaming creation before that, or not really?
So I had made a visual novel for
Hmm.
the Yuri Game Jam. I think it was in 2017 or 2018.
Ooh.
So that was my first real look into how to make a video game. But I didn't like after that. It took me like 2, 3 years to go back to making video games. So
A lot changes in that time, that's for sure.
exactly,
Was
yes.
it intimidating to like start a game again, or not so much?
No, it was the pandemic, so I had nothing but
Oh,
time. That
one of the
was
small
yeah,
benefits.
yeah. It's like if that was my lockdown project, so
Right,
it's
right, right. I mean, good
had
timing.
time. Yes.
Was there anything like when you started creating like the video game itself that you like an obstacle that you didn't expect?
Not really. I think because I had met a lot of comics before, I kind of knew that like as you make a comic, you kind of realize, oh my God, I have to plan this, I have to plan this, I have to plan this. And
Right.
I was following a lot of indie game developers at the time, and so I would see them struggle, and I was like, well, I know now. It's just- so
You were warned,
like not to
essentially.
say yeah, exactly. Not to say that it was easy because it wasn't, but
Hmm.
like it wasn't hard in a way where I was completely caught off guard about that. I was like, okay, like figured this one part would be hard.
Right, right. With the like story beats, right? Because I can imagine people that have their own, OC stories or whatever. I think you usually have like the big things planned out, right? Like the big changes of events and the plot twists and the end and the start. Um,
Yep.
was it hard to like implement that into video game and then place filler between those story beats?
It was an interesting challenge, yeah, because like there is because you do want the story to breathe in between all of those like
Yeah.
important moments. And so that was something where because also like making Start Again a prologue in particular, that was my very first time doing a longer story
Mm.
like compared to the comics that I made before, and then in Stars in Time was even bigger. So that was because with the comics, I usually would just have like establishing moments, a little bit of like filler, and then the twist or whatever, and then the
Yeah.
ending. Well, here for even for the prologue, I had to be like, okay, like this needs to be at least a 30-minute experience, and so I have to fill this up with info. What do I fill this up with? The right balance between gameplay and cutscenes as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up going like more of a almost a 50-50, which I like personally. I know some people don't. But yeah, so that was definitely a challenge to try and figure out how do you make the time pass for the player so that they're not bombarded with important story moments.
Right, right, right. When it comes to because I can imagine if you're making things, right? Eventually you get like I call it art blindness, where you just stop seeing certain maybe tiny mistakes or things like that. I imagine it's a completely different realm with making a video game. Like how did you like ask friends to like test it or something to figure out if it was going in the right direction? Or was it all you?
Okay, okay. First, when you make a longer thing, like for me specifically, I just accept that there's going to be mistakes and I don't worry about it. Because and also because like especially if you're making something longer, if you do it well, people will not remember the mistakes. They will remember the sum of everything that is in the game.
Right.
So there's also that thing where, again, since I knew I was making something longer, I was like, I can't. I mean, for some scenes, of course, I'm going to be very careful and very like perfectionist about it, and like this needs to be perfect. But otherwise, most of the small dialogue that is in the game, like the things that you can check,
Mm-hmm.
were that's the first draft.
Right, right,
So
right.
it's just I wrote it once and then that's it. But for the important scene, that's where I had like my fourth, fifth draft and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I did show both the prologue and It Starts in Time to friends before it came out because I wanted to make sure that the story hits. Like that was
Yeah,
more of a
yeah,
thing where I
yeah.
was like, sure, you can give me gameplay notes. I don't really care. Give me the story notes. Okay, here's the Google Sheets. Like here's the Google questions. What do you understand of the story so far? Do you have any questions? Are you going to be mad if I don't address a certain thing? What do you think is going to happen next? Like all of
Right.
those questions, really try and figure out where is the player at a certain point, and are there any small things where I did not intend? And sometimes there are things that the players even for the playtesters, there are things that the playtesters felt that I did not intend, but that was in a positive way, where it
Hmm.
was like, oh, great. Like I didn't think that one in that way, but like you are getting something out of it that I did not expect, which is really
Ooh.
good. And then every so often there would be like, I don't really understand at all what's happening. And it's like, okay, let me go back to the drawing board. Sorry.
Right, right, right.
Here's what I here's what I was intending. Does that make sense now that I explained it to you? And okay, this is what I should add. Got it.
How did you know, like, because there's obviously, it has some pretty emotional beats at some points, right? Like, how do you make sure that those, like, actually hit?
I'm at that point where I'm just that good, and usually people will feel the way that I want them to feel. So, I don't really care.
You rub your
For
hands
me, it
together.
was yeah, I'm good. I know. For me, it wasn't really the knowing, oh, I hope this emotional moment's gonna hit. Like I'm like
Mm-hmm.
at this point in my career, I it's probably gonna hit. But it was mostly like for me, it is pretty hard for me to write mysteries.
Mm.
And so and I feel like I I get into a little bit of complicated mysteries and I always try to like simplify them. And that was really the one thing where I was like, okay, playtesters, what do you understand of the mystery and what do you think is gonna happen? And are you going in a red herring way and I intended for that, or are you completely the wrong way and I fucked it up somewhere? Like
Right,
those are
right, right.
mostly the things where I was like, does that make sense?
I mean, I can
That's
imagine.
important.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but of course, every so often they would go, "Oh my God, that moment made me cry," and I'm like, "Yeah, I
Yes!
know." Yes, yo,
Victory.
got him. Yeah.
I think such a big part of what makes the moments hit, I feel like, is that the characters feel very, like, I'm not sure if real is the right word, but very human, right? Um,
Authentic,
yeah,
kind of.
authentic. Yeah, that's a good word. How would you recommend people to like make their characters authentic at all?
So I've mentioned it somewhere before, but I think like the way I personally do it is that I take kind of a character archetype and
Mm.
uh and I add more stuff to it. So just kind of like for Maribel, if I take Maribel for example, it's like okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is the chosen one kind of character. But let's add crippling anxiety. Let's add she's Arrow Ace.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like crippling anxiety and Arrow Ace in some ways kind of go together,
Yeah.
but and so that makes a very specific kind of repressed is kind of it's like kind of a
Mm-hmm.
repressed character. But so to that I put a little bit of spice, which is that she likes monster lover books, as we might say. She would be on AO3,
Yeah,
and I feel
exactly.
like that's kind of the spice that makes her feel more real, is kind
Right.
of that I like a lot of people like I feel like as humans we do sometimes tend to go the as archetypes. It's like, oh, there's the jock, there's the nerd, there's the theater kid, but we're not just those archetypes. And sometimes it's like, okay, listen, yes, I'm a nerd. However, come and ask me about fish.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I can go crazy about fish. I've read all the Wikipedia articles about all kinds of fish you wouldn't believe. And
Right.
that's the kind of thing that makes a character feel more real, I feel like. Just like a re really, really specific like or dislike.
Right. What kind of like archetypes did you start with initially for the cast?
I have not hidden the fact that for me the biggest inspiration for Insertion Time was Tales of Symphonia. Tales of Symphonia is good, you guys. And so that was what the archetypes were for me. So Maribel was more like the Colette chosen one type.
Mm-hmm.
Um Isabeau was the Lloyd hero, like main character hero type. Um, uh, Bonnie was more of the genus type, so like the little kid, almost like maybe mage type kid. But I was like, you can't be a mage, you're a kid, so you're just a kid type. Um, Odile was the rain teacher type,
Right.
and Sifrin was the fifth party member type. And I kind of like that very, very much for me, Sifrin is kind of like the odd one out a
Yeah,
bit, where
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, you just joined the team. There's a little bit of awkwardness that the other people from the team don't really know them that well, but are still trusting them. But
Mm-hmm.
there is still a bit of like we like traveler type. We don't really know what they're about, which means that we need to keep an eye on them, which has been like some you can find some dialogue with Odile where she's like, okay, but like they're like now I trust them, but they were weird.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, so that was kind of the archetypes that I picked for the five of them. And then for Loop, I didn't really have a Tales of Symphonia archetype for them. It was more like the what's the word? The fairy from Zelda, but
I
I
was
always
literally
forget
about to
her
say
name.
like the tutorial character.
Yeah. Yeah. They're the tutorial character and kind of a little bit so the same way that Sifrin is a from Tales of their Tales of Symphonia counterpart would be Zelos. I
Mm-hmm.
think that Loop would also be Zelos, and it would be two different part of Zelos because for Sifrin it's like the fifth party member a bit, like the uh little weird, not sure if you can trust them, but sure they're cool. And then for Lupin, it's even more of the not sure if we can trust them, but we're cool. And adding the flamboyant, we can't say they're gay, but flamboyant party member.
Right, right, right. Was like one character easier to like develop than the other?
Like for all of them, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, for all of them.
Uh, some were harder.
Is it because
Some
like
were
you can't
harder.
relate, or is it like just writing in general?
Um, I think it was writing in general.
Mm.
Ordeal at the beginning was pretty hard. And then became my crutch for the one character that goes, all right, you guys just stop. We need to continue the story right now. Stop this shit. Let's go. But when I finished the prologue and I started In Stars in Time, I had a long bit of trouble with Sifrin in particular
Mm.
because I went from having prologue Sifrin, who's so depressed, doesn't have anything to live for, just very very dry humor, if any.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was writing in Stars in Time, one thing that I forced myself to do is to write chronologically was going to happen in the game.
Right.
So I started with Act One Sifrin, which is not like the prologue at all. So I had a lot of trouble bringing like figuring out what is Sifrin that is not overwhelmingly depressed would be
Yeah, yeah,
like.
yeah.
And so that would like that took like a while to figure out like, okay, what would this character be like when they're not depressed? I don't know. I have to think about that for a while.
Was there a specific way to like explore the characters or meh?
When usually when I have trouble figuring out a character's voice,
Mm-hmm.
I I just put them in situations and not like
Ah.
canon situations, but just like, okay, what if they this character and some other character that maybe it is a little easier to write for me went to buy groceries. How would that go? What would they say? Okay, what if they were stuck in a cabin and it was cold? How would they react? Like, how would they react in those kinds of quote unquote like normal situations that do not specifically have anything to do with the game?
Mm-hmm.
And like doing that kind of exercise helps me figure out like, oh, okay, like that was a good line. It's like I
Yeah.
have to keep that for later. Um, like doing a lot of that, doing some exercises, like those, like I feel like you see those on Tumblr every so often, which is like, here are 100 questions you can ask yourself about your OC. Those,
Ah.
those are pretty useful just as a way to kind of figure out, okay, what is my character's favorite food? Okay, that like that can be like how does that inform their character? Like that sort of stuff.
Right. I mean, that's smart. Was the little like I don't know if Easter eggs is the right word, but like all the little French thingies like the boulangerie and like stuff like that. Was that always the plan, or did you just kind of add that as you went?
What's the French Easter eggs? Listen, I gotta know what's up with the French in there. Uh, I don't know when it's not American. I don't know when
Mm-hmm.
it's not British. It's French, which is a little strange to me. Can you tell me more about that? Yes.
What is this
So,
strange language?
what is this strange language? Like, can you tell me more about the French references? Where does that come from? I'm French. And and so, like, I that was kind of I feel like we live in a very Americanized, Englishized society.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate it. It's not cool. I would like to see more cultures and video games and
Mm-hmm.
all kind of media. And for me specifically, I it's not a secret. I have been living in countries outside of France for like more than a decade now. And so I am losing my French. Like if I talk to French people, it's not great. I'm having trouble. And so that was again right during the pandemic, and all of my worries came to the forefront. And I was like, I'm losing my French. I'm losing my French.
Uh-oh.
And so that was kind of a way to reclaim my Frenchness a little bit, is to add a lot of French things to the game,
Right.
just as a for me, and that was for me, and also that was as a fuck you to everyone who thinks that games should be English. So it's a little bit of both.
Right, right.
That was love and that was spite.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense, I would say.
And I also wanted to make the game exotic, you know?
Right,
Like a
right.
little bit exotic.
I
A little
mean,
bit
you
out there.
you get a lot of questions about it. I'm like, I mean, I've seen a lot of people like focus on the French for some reason. So I mean, it's I get
For some
the,
reason. Yeah.
the it really stands out. I think that says a lot that people focus on it so much.
I'm glad.
When it comes to because there's let's just say there's more exotic elements
Yes, yes.
to the game as a whole, right? Like the whole cast obviously is very very queer.
Hmm.
Which I can imagine there's plenty of people who have stories with queer characters, right? But it's also probably that a lot of people are scared to implement that because maybe they're worried about harassment or sales declining. And I was like, you shouldn't focus on that, obviously. But it might scare some people. Like, what would you say to those kinds of creators?
I would love to say fuck everyone, just do what you want, but like the real piece of advice is that, and this is going to be controversial,
Mm.
I think you should do it, and you should not worry about the homophobic and transphobic and whatever people that will hate your guts no matter what. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to prepare answers in your head for those types of people that don't think pronouns are real.
Yeah.
Uh, However, there might be people that are from within your community,
Mm-hmm.
within your queer community, that might find some faults in the way that you've portrayed a certain experience or not.
Right.
And I think that is more something that you have to not necessarily prepare for, but just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like while you're making whatever you're making, to either always have the haters in your brain going, "Oh, you shouldn't, this is not what the ace experience is like," and then prepare your answer, or just go with what you know or what you think, and then get ready for whatever happens.
Right.
I the thing is, I even as a queer person, I check a bunch of those boxes. I do not check all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is kind of about trying to, if you are uh representing a an experience that is not necessarily your own, that's the moment where you would like I would highly recommend showing it to people that are from this community and going, what do you think? Have I stepped in it? Like,
Right. Like get our
because that was
feedback.
something, yeah, because that was something especially for me for Mirabelle's Friend Quest, where
Right.
yes, I am ace, but I am not the other things that that Mirabelle is worried about. I am not aromantic, and
Mm-hmm.
I am deeply atheist also. So I was kind of like, all right, I don't know. I hope I managed to put myself in the place of someone like her who has those kinds of struggles. I only check one of those boxes out of three. So I showed it to some of my friends that do check those other boxes, and I'm like, "What do you like? First, what do you think? Have I stepped in it?
Mm-hmm.
And even if I have not stepped in it, are there? Would you feel comfortable telling me any facet of your experience that you feel like could kind of bring this scene higher?"
Right.
So that's kind of the thing. But yeah, so I would say just write whatever you want to write, even if those experiences are not your own.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but do try to keep in mind that as good as of a writer you might be, it is always useful to show it to people that have actually lived this experience. Both for have I stepped in it? Is the mob? Oh my God! Is the alphabet mafia going to come after me? Oh my God! Like just to kind of put your mind at ease, and also because again, having the feedback of someone who has gone through this experience will make whatever you're writing better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, that makes
do
good
the
sense.
work. Do the work.
All
Do
the
the work.
research. When it comes to like people like I don't know, family or friends that are more removed from like the whole artistic online sphere, is it hard to explain that you do game design?
Okay, so n no, but I am in the privileged position of having my game be successful. And so even if
Right.
there are some people that are around me that don't know anything about video games, I can still go, yeah, but well, I got a lot of I got money. I got game money. And they go, "Ooh, all right. Now
Right,
you
the
can tell
money
me
is the
more. I'm
proof.
actually interested." The
Hmm.
money is the proof, but at the same time, it was so funny. I met up with one of my uncles, and I was like, "So my, I know you don't know anything about like art or whatever, but I made a game and it did pretty well." And he was like, "Okay, well, I don't, whatever, cool. Let's change the subject." And I'm like, "But here's the money, though. Here are the
Yeah.
numbers." And like, "Oh, cool. All right, that is kind of interesting." And then a bit later on, I was like, oh, and also like I'm doing some other things. Like for example, I am teaching at a university for a semester, and he was so much more impressed at me teaching at a university for 3 hours a week than from me having made one of the most I'm just like, okay, you know what? Fair, fair. I'll take it. You know what? You can make the coolest game ever that Tumblr loves, but how important is that when you're a teacher at a university 3 hours a week for one semester out of the year? You
Oh my
know?
god. I guess some
Calm
people,
down. You're
yeah,
not cool.
I guess some people really can't like grasp things that are like removed from their own what is it,
It's
lens?
I think it's just very funny. But yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise people my uncle was a special case, but otherwise people, even people who don't know a lot about video games have been like, "Oh, right. I didn't know that was good what you did. I thought it was like a hobby." I'm like, "Yeah. Thanks.
You
My
know, there's
hobby,
always
my little
some.
hobby."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Was there any periods while you were, working on your project that you got really like demotivated or like tired of your own work, so to speak?
Oh yeah, of course, yes. I don't want to go into detail, but yeah.
Yeah, 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 fair, fair.
That's what projects do to you.
Right. How do you like motivate yourself again if your motivation dips a little?
Uh, take a break,
Mhm. Mhm.
a long one, hopefully, and wait for a bit. And also, that is also because I put on myself some restrictions. Again, I only want to write things chronologically,
Right.
uh, because that way I don't only focus on the good parts and then I'm like, ah, shit, I have to focus on the bad parts now. I have to focus on the filler. That sucks. So I would say in those moments, this is the moment to write that good scene and be
Ooh.
like, yeah, this is what we're going towards. This is it.
Get the motivation. Hell yeah.
Yes.
Is that did your like your workflow evolve a lot over the course of working on the game?
Not really.
No.
I have a good workflow.
Ah, slay.
I, I know how to make a project, so I know I'm
Right, right,
good.
right.
I don't like it's just my brain is just has just good wires and good stuff, so I'm
Hell
good.
yeah.
I usually when I'm doing good, I can just work and it stuff it gets finished and I don't have to worry too much about it.
Awesome. Do you work with like a Trello board or something or not? Not really.
No.
No.
I'm just that good. No, I have I use OneNote, like the old
Mm.
okay, the old version of OneNote, not the new shitty version, the old version of OneNote. Okay. But so that's what I use, and one of the ways that I keep myself focused and on time is that I have a private devlog, and so that
Mhm.
like every week I give myself a page and it's like, okay, what did I do on Monday? What did I do on Tuesday? What did I do on Wednesday?
Right.
And that like forcing myself to do, even if it's one small thing, like okay, I put 1 pixel on a thing, like that helps me feel like I'm working, and so
Yeah.
that keeps me motivated in that way. Um, and usually it's just like the my so far my games have been very like there's either arcs or acts or chapters or whatever, and so I know that it's like, okay, well, I do it chapter per chapter. This, like, for example, for Stars in Time, act one, okay, I need to write everything. I need to like edit everything that I've written. I need to add everything into the game, realizing, ah, damn, I forgot to add something here. I need to add a little bit of dialogue here. I need to code all, like, I usually do it like act per act. So by act one, I had like, it took me the longest, obviously, because I
Mhm.
wanted it to be as complete as possible. So it's like if I was like, hey, can you play act one and let me know, they would have everything in there. Like the art would be finished and the text would be finished, the sound effects would be there. So that gives me a lot of work in like the beginning. But then after that, I know, okay, well, I finished Act One. Let's take a little break and then go to Act Two and then writing, blah, 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 adding all of that in. So that's kind of how I organize myself. It's knowing per chapter, I have to do those things in this order, and then I can go to the next one.
Right. Do you stick to like a hour schedule every day? Like do you say like, oh, I'm working from, I don't know, 1 to 5 or something, or is it just kind of spread across the week?
Spread across the week usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't do anything? Do you do anything else like next to it, or is this like full time?
Now it is full time, but when I was making In Stars in Time, for a good chunk of it, I was working full time at an
Oh.
animation studio, and so that was my side project for a long time.
Oh.
The I think the last maybe 2 months of production, I took some time off from work so I could really focus on the game full time for the
Oh
last
wow.
stretch.
Was that like overwhelming at all, or meh?
No, it was during the pandemic, so I had nothing
Oh,
to do.
yeah. Right, right, right.
And even after the lockdown ended, my studio was still work from home, so
Hmm.
that was just work from home.
When did you like switch from like your job to being like, I'm gonna do this full time now?
Uh, okay, so I don't know if you're aware of what's happening in most art industries, including the animation industry, but everyone's
Ooh.
getting laid off. So just like a lot of people, I got laid off
Aw.
at the beginning of last year, and that was the moment where the game Instruction Time started picking up speed. So I was like, oh damn, I
Mm.
could just work full time. So
Oh
this,
wow.
I was very lucky in that aspect, so that it was like, oh well. That you laid me off at the perfect moment, actually. Thank
The
you.
stars
That's
aligned.
great. Yeah, that's great for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, very lucky in that sense.
Yes.
Um, okay, I'm curious about like after as well, right? Because I mean, everyone has OCs that they love, right? Like their own characters and stuff. But when you make something that like blows up, I can imagine it's a little maybe scary at times that people take your characters and just kind of do whatever they want with them, right? Because it's like a product, an IP, a media. Um,
Okay.
was there anything about that you
hmm
didn't expect? Like the aftermath?
No, no, because I once again, I am very smart. And also I've been on Tumblr for a very long time.
Right, right.
I know the horrors that people do. Even worse, I have enacted horrors onto characters that were not mine. So I know exactly what pushes someone to go, this is my little chew toy now.
Oh god.
God bless you, creator. This is my chew toy now. That's my OC. Sorry.
Right. Do they still feel like
So
yours? Like when you see all that?
no, no, they don't. But I knew that was gonna happen. I was like, like no joke. That was work that I had to do before the game came out. Where I was like, all right, let me actually take the time to write down what those characters and what this storyline and what this moment means to me at this moment that
Ah,
I am in the thick of it.
smart.
So that later on, when people go, you know, I really think that the forgotten country is Britain, I can
Oh.
be like, just I'm breathing. I'm I'm so calm right now. It's all good.
Oh my god, I'm
I'm not
so sorry
I
that
don't
happened.
I don't want to kill people. I'm all good. I'm all good. I've done the work.
Right,
Everything's cool. Everything's fine and dandy.
because people will say like kind of whatever, right? Even like theories
Yeah,
or
and it's also that I didn't let's be real, I didn't think it was going to be to that extent, but
hmm.
I kind of figured that In Stars in Time was going to be popular among teenagers and Tumblr
Yeah,
teenagers
yeah.
in particular. And the thing that Tumblr teenagers do, I've done it. This is speaking from a person who has done it. I'm not like, oh my God, did you know? No, I've done it. You just take a character that you like, and you're like, you know what? I think that they do this thing because I do it. I think this character is like so me right now.
The head
And
cannon.
the head canon and it kind of and to the point where the character that you are imprinting on becomes a wholly different character from what it originally was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And once again, I'm not saying this is bad. I've done it. I think this is an important part of growing up is to
Uh-huh.
latch onto a character and be like, this is me. This is my little guy now. And I really, and it makes me genuinely like extremely happy and proud of myself that
Mm-hmm.
people use my characters as a chew toy and as kind
Huh.
of oftentimes also models. Like that's completely fucked up and that's so
Huh?
amazing. And I'm so glad. Like in a bad way where they take Sifrin as a model and they're like, I shouldn't be like that. And I'm like, that's so good. You're doing such a good
Ah.
job.
Right, right,
uh,
right.
but but it is a thing that people do, and I'm so glad that people feel comfortable doing that with my character. As a creator, I have had to do work to be like, I have to be okay with this because I would hate to become Anne Rice.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah,
I
yeah.
ever become, if I ever become Anne Rice, you can shoot me like a dog.
Was there
And
anything
this is
like
part of the reason. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I saw like one I don't check Tumblr nearly often enough, but a while ago I saw someone that you have like your questions thing open on Tumblr, right? And there was this person that
Hmm.
said that something something Sifrin something something made me show myself more grace. Like that they learn things about
Yeah,
themselves through your characters. Like what is that like?
exactly. That's I don't know. My brain doesn't know how to react to this. I think like
Mm.
it's just incredible. Like it's like it feels like I have made some people's lives better,
Right.
and that is just absolutely that's bonkers to me. I couldn't be happier. Like I didn't like that was one of the things that I did not expect. Like that wasn't on my bingo card to be like you're gonna make some people's lives better. And I'm like, no, with my little guys, are you sure?
The
Like
little
that's
comfort blarbos.
with my blorbos, are you sure? Like that's absolutely amazing. I am very, very glad that people have come out with like possibly better ways to regulate their feelings, to kind of calm
Yeah.
down. I have had some people tell me, "Oh, I really appreciated the whole thing when you start and end a battle that goes you breathe out. Like that's really making
Aw.
me aware of my breathing when I feel stressed." I'm like, "Oh my
That's
God.
so
Oh my
sweet.
God."
What the hell? Oh my
It's
goodness.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah,
like this
yeah.
is it's amazing. Yeah.
People, cause yeah, yeah. People definitely like. I'm not an expert, but seeing all the all the bajillion different profile pictures,
Oh yeah.
something clearly hit there for a lot of people.
Yeah. People are doing different sonas every so often, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I knew this was gonna happen. I'm glad. Yeah.
Like right, right, right. You're working on like a completely new project now, right? Like a graphic novel, I believe.
Visual
Visual
novel.
novel.
No,
Shit.
I'm not going back to comics.
My bad. My bad. How how is it to like cause I would imagine if you have like a following now that's cause it grows substantially based on this project, right? And to then do
Yeah.
something completely different, is that like scary in any way because of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but in a way where I'm just like, fuck it. Like
Yeah.
I don't want In Stars in Time to be the last thing that I make just because I'm afraid of the next thing not being as well liked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just doing whatever and hopefully I'll try and be so clear that yeah, it is going to be similar to In Stars in Time just because I'm making it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this one, I don't think I don't think this is going to be just like In Stars in Time where you're going to come out with like some ways to calm yourself down and some ways to do therapy. It's like no, this is not that type of game this time. Sorry, this
Mm-hmm.
is not the feel good like the scary feel good game. This is just my no no I was gonna say too much but no it's not gonna
No, no, no,
it's
no, it's fine,
not
it's
gonna
fine.
be that it's not gonna be that But I hope that people look at it and then that they will read the Steam page thoroughly and
Mm-hmm.
that they won't be mad at me for for not having the same kind of blorbos. There's still gonna be blorbos. They're not gonna be the same flavor of blorbos.
No blorbos.
Those ones are gonna be too spicy,
Ooh.
maybe for some. So please look at the Steam page when the game gets announced so that you
Mm-hmm.
can go, actually, you know what, dog? I'm gonna skip this one and wait for the next one. There's nothing that would make me happier than for fans of In Stars in Time to look at my next game and go, you know what? That's not for me. I would rather you do that rather than go, I'll play it no matter what. And then you're
Yeah,
gonna be like,
yeah,
this is
yeah.
not, that's not. I'm like, please don't. You know what? There's most likely there's going to be a demo. Play the demo to your heart's content, and
Ah.
then make your like just okay. Just please. I am so like that's the main fear is to people for people to play the next game and go, that wasn't in Stars in Time. I'm like, yeah,
Oh.
I know. I'm not. I contain multitudes. I do other things. Please.
Is it weird to like maybe a bit of a silly question, but is it weird to go from working with black and white to like working with color again?
Not anymore. It was a little hard at the beginning because I forgot how colors worked, but now I'm good. I
Full
was like,
color
okay,
mode.
there's green. How do you use green? I will also say something.
Sure.
I am like I have just added a lot of like you know like please like it's good I like but you know be careful if you try to play the next game or whatever. The next game is really good. I am very happy with what I'm doing right now.
Uh-huh.
I am doing some scenes that I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's the good stuff. So I am putting like a lot of like disclaimers where it's like, okay, listen, blah 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 blah. It's good. It's gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
good game.
Mm-hmm.
If you like that kind of game, that I'm not gonna say what it is because that will be spoilers, but you're gonna
Right.
know when the game gets announced. If you like that sort of stuff, you will love my game. It's just that it's not in Stars in Time. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right. No,
Don't
no, I get
expect in
it.
Stars in Time 2. There's a reason that I'm not doing in Stars in Time 2 because I fucking hate sequels. Thank you.
Right, right, right. Um,
I think sequels should be banned except for Shrek.
except for Shrek.
Shrek 2 can exist, can and should exist. That's
We're,
the only sequel that is worth my time.
yeah, yeah. I mean, fair to be honest. Is there something that I noticed and like personally really like about IPs as well is that you left a lot of things open, right? Like story
Yes.
wise, world wise. I feel like there's always some people who have such a like hunger for like canon answers or whatever, which you have addressed a few
hmm
times, I believe.
hmm
Was there
hmm
like a
hmm hmm
main
hmm
like big motivator that was like, this is why I'm not gonna answer those questions?
Uh, so you might not know this, but I come from Tumblr. And and a thing that I have noticed in my long years of being a Tumblr girl, a Tumblrina,
Mm-hmm.
if you will, is that nothing gets people crazier about a fandom than when the original story has things left unanswered. This
Right.
is this is the reason that people write fan fictions is because they
Mm-hmm.
go, you know what? I don't know what happened here, but I want to make it up. And so I that was my test to see if people would write fan fictions about the things that they felt like had no answer.
Oh
And the
hell
answer
yeah.
is yes, because I'm very smart and I have succeeded in my evil plan to have a lot of fan fictions about the game. And also, I really like it when things are left unanswered. I think that's the best way to get a brain rot, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're spot on. I my mind immediately goes to Omori, but I don't know if that was an inspiration at all.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Not at the time.
No, no,
Like
right.
there were a couple of visual things that inspired me,
Hmm.
but otherwise story wise, it didn't really inspire me that much.
Right, right, right. No, but I think you're definitely
Because
spot on with
I think I
empty.
already had. Yeah. But yeah, like that's the same thing with Amore, where it's like it just ends at like the most like
Mm-hmm.
cliffhangery place ever. And
Mm-hmm.
that's both because that makes sense with the story and just makes people go crazy. It's great.
It does. It does 100%. When it comes to like making the world for your projects, right? Like how far do you go in like writing those out or planning those out or figuring out how the world itself works? Like how much detail would you say you go into?
Some, but not too much.
Right.
I've mentioned it before, but I like the way that Brandon Sanderson writes worlds.
Mhm.
And the way that Brenda Sanderson writes worlds is that he focuses on only a few parts of the culture of or the world or the way like the weather, something like that.
Right.
And then he kind of goes, okay, so if this thing is happening, like if I decided this thing about the culture, how does that like if I decide this specific thing about fashion, how does that affect other parts of culture? How does that affect like maybe photography? How does
Hmm.
that affect uh, the taboos? Maybe how does that affect the way that people dress and the way that they present themselves, and maybe different levels of luxury and that sort of stuff? How do rich people wear this? How do poor people wear this? And so that's kind of the way that I structure my worlds is that I try to focus on only a couple of important things about the world and go, okay, so let's figure out a couple of ways that this thing that I've invented would affect other parts of culture.
Right.
And that's the way that I figured it out. I don't like to go, this is happening in the equivalent of the Steam age. It's not
Yeah,
me.
the whole world is mapped out. Stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I did see us. That was a while back, but there was one person who went, okay, listen, I'm trying to figure out the level of technology in Stars in Time. And I was fascinated, and I was like, I didn't think about any of that. That's so cool. Not
That's so
me.
fun. Oh my goodness. Was that makes me think the maybe this is a very very silly question, but like with the food and stuff, was that very deliberate or was it just like I like this food, I'm gonna implement this food?
Oh, absolutely deliberate. Yeah, because what I have noticed from the prologue is that if you put fleur-de-lis and you put French words and some other stuff like that, people will not get, but this game is very French inspired. You know what
Hmm.
people will get? Baguettes uh, and croissants. If you put a croissant in there, they're like, you know what? That is tickling my French funny bone. I
Oh
think there's
god.
something French in this area. So that is I feel like food is one of the easiest way that everyone around the world can tell where something is from.
Right.
Like if you put sushi, it's like this is Japanese. If you put like noodles, you're like, ooh, most likely this is from an Asian country, like that
Hmm.
sort of stuff. And the same way that if you put a croissant or a baguette, people are like, this is French.
Right.
So there was that. And then after that, so that was for most of the pastries in the game. And for the some of the other stuff, like the fish head or the samosas,
Hmm.
that's because the game is also very much about uh, the French Caribbeans, and those are
Ah.
foods that you eat in the French Caribbeans.
Oh.
And because like it's because Bonnie in particular is very much implied to be from a village that is close to French to the French Caribbeans.
Hmm.
Uh, and so those are foods that Bonnie, as a French Caribbean little guy, would eat.
Right, 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 right. Would you recommend other people as well, like if they're working on something, to like have fun with like implementing stuff from their culture?
Oh, absolutely. Like this is no, like genuinely, I think that those are great ways to add um personality to your game. I was just reading I should find out the book again, but one of those boss fights books about specific video games, and they like one person
Ooh.
analyzes specific video games that they like. And I was reading the one about Animal Crossing and how Obviously, Animal Crossing is Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of the events that are in the first Animal Crossing game are taking from Japanese culture. And so there was a whole thing when they did the localization where it's like, okay, we have to localize some of those events for overseas, especially for America. However, not all of them, and so not all of them were localized, and
Right.
those events kind of become for us, if we don't know a lot about Japanese culture, we don't see those funny events, quote unquote, like Kids Day as like Japanese events that they put into this American game, but
Yeah.
as overworldly fantasy events. Uh, and so that kind of added personality to this world by because we're just like and also when I say like fantasy events, I mean like when you're 12 and you're playing this game for the first time. Like
Yeah, yeah,
that's what
yeah,
I mean.
yeah.
It's like and so I feel like adding and not necessarily from your specific culture if you come from another country, but it's just like, what does your family celebrate?
Right.
Like, and sometimes people are just like, you know what, we celebrate the anniversary of that time. Like, I was just seeing someone's picture, and I was like, oh yeah, we celebrate the anniversary of the time I got this plushie when I was 2 years old, and this is
Aw.
the whole family is like, yeah,
Aw.
Squishy's birthday, and it's very cute, and it's like such a really nice. Like it would be so fascinating as as something that happened in the game, where it's like, oh, what if that was a thing like for a whole culture that you celebrate the plushie's birthday because it's close to the baby's birthday too, and those kind
Right.
of go together. Like that's such a nice way to add some flavor to your game, to add very specific things that happen to you.
Mhm.
And I kind of understand that people don't want to be quote unquote weird, and they want to put things that everyone can understand into the story
Yeah.
that they're writing. But that makes your story boring. Do you just want to make Marvel slop your whole life? Wake up!
Go crazy, go crazy.
Go crazy, go crazy, go crazy. Say the funny things that happen in your life. Like that is genuinely what makes a character or a world feel real. It's like how would specific people live? Like that's what makes it fun. So
Mhm.
do it, just do it.
When it comes to realizing such a big project, right? Because I'm sure, especially nowadays, or I could say post Undertale, plenty of people
Hmm.
probably want to make their own games, but I also imagine lots of people are intimidated. They're like, where would I even start, or what would I even use? How do I, like, where's my starting point or whatever? Is there like a first step you would recommend to people to start?
So I have made a whole post about what softwares you should use if you don't know anything about programming. You
Ooh,
can find it on
okay.
my Tumblr, or you can find it on my portfolio, www.insertdisc5.com.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have been asking me that question. As someone who doesn't like to code and doesn't really know how to code still, I really, really appreciate that there are so many softwares that are usually free about creating games without knowing how to code. RPG
Mm-hmm.
Maker is a big one. RenPy is a really big one.
Ooh.
There's also Godot that I don't know a lot about, like this Pico 8 if you want to do something smaller. Like there are so many ways to start doing a video game, and you should just do it. However, I will also say that there is a difference between making a game as a hobby and
Mm-hmm.
making a game as a career.
Yeah.
I have been extremely lucky that making games as a hobby has become a way for me to work full time.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the usual path. So
Yeah.
that is like if you are trying to do games, like you want to do a game for the first time, this most likely will be a hobby game. Like,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say, don't make games to make money. I have been very lucky, but this is not like you might get some money, like that would maybe enough to be like, yeah, I can buy food every couple, like every so often, like takeout. But this is more like if you want to make something fun, if you like to create things, if you like
Yeah.
to really be able to control every single facet of the making of a project, game development is really it. It's so
Yeah.
fun to be able to control every single facet of what you're making and arriving at the point where you have your little like you have your drawing of your little character and you manage to make it move around. Like it's so good. Like this is
It
this
comes
is
to life.
drugs. Like just yeah, this becomes drugs where you're like, oh my God, I can make my little character move, and if I press A, then they can talk to me. I think this is the best thing ever. So
Hell yeah.
if you wanna make video games, yeah, like absolutely do it. I I think it is so much fun to make video games, and everyone should try it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, last but not least, is there anyone, anything, or whatever else that you would like to shout out?
Yes, two things. I would like to shout out Nth Circle, who have made the visual novel of the Devil. And
Ooh.
of the Devil is an amazing visual novel that is like Ace Attorney, but with toxic lesbians. And that's kind of the way
Big.
that most people would describe it, but it goes so much deeper than that in the way that this game is very much a science fiction essay almost about where we are going in terms of like artificial intelligence, in terms of like right to repair, in terms of corporations and how powerful they are becoming. Like it is absolutely an amazing time, and I recommend that everyone try out Of the Devil. It's on Steam. The first episode, episode 0, is free, and after that,
Ooh.
episode 1 has just released last month, and it is absolutely incredible. Everyone should play it. That's my first shout out. My second shout out is I've been playing a bunch of demos on for the Steam Next Fest, and I have played Am I Nima? I don't know the name of the developer. I'm checking it right now. Am I Nima demo on Steam? Thank you, and it's by Ho Games. Ho exclamation points games. Uh, and I have played the demo, and it is about a little girl. You're a little girl named Nima, question mark, and you are trying to convince your mother that you are Nima. And
Oh.
it's just, and there's like a lot of, like, and the way that the gameplay works is kind of this word association. For example, you get the word, you get, one thing that really got to me is that you have you can have the word mom, you can have the word Nima, you can have the word stranger, you can have the word grief. And if you, for
Mm-hmm.
example, you put grief and mom together, it becomes Nima. And it's like, oh
Huh?
my God, why does when I put mom and grief together, it gives my name? Like
Ooh.
it's just it is absolutely such a fascinating way of telling a story through that word
Ooh.
association. And same thing, like the demo is out right now on Steam. It's like a 40-minute long experience, or maybe not even. The visuals are absolutely incredible. I am so interested to see where the story goes next. I highly recommend it. Those are my two shout outs. Play Of the Devil, play Am I Nima. You will have a good time. Thank you.
Hell yeah. Well, in that case, Adrian, merci beaucoup for coming on the podcast.
De rien.
I had a really it was a good conversation, and listener.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Um, dear listener, stay awesome, stay creative, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.